When my wife texted, "Friend needs company," at 11:30 p.m., I replied with 5 words that made her call me 12 times in a row. But that text was just the beginning. What I found next destroyed everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my family, and the daughter I'd raised for 9 years. My name's Colin Wallace. I'm 43 years old, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. Quality control consultant in the chemical manufacturing industry, decent income, nice house in the suburbs outside Cleveland. Married to Rachel for 19 years. 3 kids, Samantha's 16, Jordan's 13, and Bella just turned 9. The American dream, right? Wrong. It was a Tuesday night, around 11:30. I was in the home office reviewing safety compliance reports for a client when my phone buzzed. Rachel had left 2 hours earlier, said she was meeting her friend Jennifer for drinks. Nothing unusual. She did that maybe once a month. The text read, "Friend needed company. Be home soon." No name. No explanation. Just that vague, dismissive sentence that fell off the moment I read it. Jennifer's husband had died 6 months ago, so the friend needed company story had become Rachel's go-to excuse. But something in my chest tightened. Maybe it was the late hour. Maybe it was the pattern I'd been ignoring for months. I didn't overthink it. I just typed 5 words and hit send. Sure. Say hi to Owen. Owen Harris, the sales manager at her chemical supply company. The guy whose name showed up too often in her stories. The one she'd mentioned casually last month when I asked who she was texting at the dinner table. "Just Owen from work," she'd said, laughing like it was nothing. I set my phone down and stared at the screen. 3 minutes passed. Nothing. 5 minutes. Still nothing. Then my phone exploded. 12 calls in a row. No voicemails, just frantic ringing that shattered the silence of the house. I let every single one go to voicemail, my heart pounding, but my hands steady. This wasn't panic I felt. It was clarity. 20 minutes later, I heard her car screech into the driveway. The front door flew open, so hard it hit the wall. Rachel appeared in the doorway of my office, face pale, jacket still on, breathing like she'd just run a marathon. "Colin," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't look up from my laptop. I kept scrolling through the compliance report like she wasn't standing there unraveling. "Colin, we need to talk." Her voice was shaking now. I finally raised my eyes to meet hers. She looked terrified. Good. She should be. About what? I asked, my tone flat and cold. "That text. I can explain." I closed my laptop slowly, deliberately. Then I stood up and walked past her without a word, heading toward the hallway. She followed me, her heels clicking frantically on the hardwood floor. "Where are you going?" Rachel's voice climbed higher with each word. I stopped at the wall in the hallway where her vision board used to hang. Now, pinned neatly in its place were printouts, location data from her phone, pulled from our shared cloud account that she'd forgotten I still had access to. 3 months of Thursdays. Same hotel outside town. Same timestamps. Every single week. And beneath those, a screenshot. Not from her phone, but from Owen's social media. A comment he'd left on her gym selfie from 2 weeks ago. The photo where she wore the navy blue hoodie she'd told me she left at Jennifer's house. Rachel stood frozen, staring at the wall like she'd seen a ghost. I turned to face her, my voice calm and measured. "I didn't need proof, Rachel. I just needed you to stop lying." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. For the first time in 19 years, my wife had no script ready. Rachel stood in that hallway for what felt like an eternity, staring at the printouts like they might rearrange themselves into something less damning. Her breathing was shallow, rapid. I watched her chest rise and fall as reality crashed down around her. "Colin." She reached toward the wall, then pulled her hand back. "You went through my phone." That was her defense. Not an apology, not an explanation, just an accusation wrapped in disbelief. "Your phone." I let out a laugh that had no humor in it. "Rachel, this is from our shared cloud account. The one you set up 3 years ago, so we could track the kids' locations. Remember? For safety." Her face went even paler. She'd forgotten. Of course she had. When you're living a double life, the small details slip through the gaps. "And before you try to spin this," I continued, my voice steady and cold, "I want you to know something. I've been watching this pattern for 12 weeks. Every Thursday night, you disappear for 3 to 4 hours. Same location, different excuses." Rachel's jaw tightened. She was calculating now. I could see it in her eyes. Trying to figure out what else I knew, how much damage control she needed to do. It's not what it looks like, she finally said, her voice small and thin. I stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head up to look at me. Then explained the Instagram comment. Owen Harris left a fire emoji under your gym photo 2 weeks ago. The photo where you're wearing my old Navy hoodie. The one you said you left at Jennifer's. He's just a co-worker who... Stop. I held up my hand, cutting her off mid-sentence. Do not insult my intelligence any more than you already have. I know who Owen is. I know he's 35, divorced, drives a Lexus, and works in sales at Chemtech Solutions. Your company. Rachel's mouth fell open slightly. She hadn't expected me to know that much. How did you? I'm a quality control consultant. Rachel. My entire career is built on finding problems other people try to hide. Did you really think I wouldn't apply those same skills to my own marriage when something felt wrong? She took a step back, hitting the wall behind her. For the first time, I saw something other than panic in her expression. Fear. Real, genuine fear of consequences. The kids, she whispered. Colin, please. Think about the kids. That line hit me like a punch to the gut, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I leaned in and spoke slowly, deliberately. I've thought about nothing but the kids for the past 3 months. While you were out doing whatever you were doing with Owen, I was the one making sure Samantha got a volleyball practice. I was the one helping Jordan with his algebra homework. I was the one reading bedtime stories to Bella. Tears started streaming down Rachel's face. But I wasn't moved. Not anymore. These weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of someone who'd been caught and was now facing the consequences. So don't you dare use our children as a shield, I said, my voice dropping to barely above a whisper. You didn't think about them when you were lying to me for months. You don't get to use them as leverage now. I turned and walked toward the bedroom, leaving her standing alone in the hallway with the evidence of her betrayal staring back at her. Where are you going? Rachel called after me, voice breaking. To pack a bag. I replied without turning around. I'm staying at Lewis's place tonight. And Rachel? I paused at the bedroom door. Don't call me. Don't text me. When I'm ready to talk, I'll let you know. Behind me, I heard her slide down the wall, soft sobs echoing through the hallway. But I didn't look back. I couldn't afford to. Lewis's apartment smelled like coffee and old leather when I arrived just past 1 in the morning. He opened the door in sweatpants and a faded Police Academy t-shirt, took one look at my face, and stepped aside without asking questions. Couch is yours, he said, pointing to the worn sectional in his living room. Coffee's in the pot. I'm guessing you're not sleeping anytime soon. Lewis Wallace was 45, my cousin on my dad's side, and the only cop in the family. Well, former cop. He'd retired 2 years ago after 23 years on the force, took his pension, and now did private security consulting. We'd always been close, even when life got busy. I dropped my bag by the couch and sank into the cushions. The weight of everything that just happened pressed down on my chest like a steel plate. Want to talk about it? Lewis asked, handing me a mug of black coffee. Rachel's been cheating on me. The words came out flat, emotionless. Guy from her work. Owen Harris. Been going on for at least 3 months, maybe longer. Lewis didn't react with shock or sympathy. He just nodded slowly, processing. That's what I needed. Not pity. Not empty platitudes. Just someone who understood. You got proof? He asked. Location data, Instagram evidence, pattern analysis. 12 Thursdays in a row at the same motel. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshots I'd saved. Lewis studied them carefully, his cop instincts kicking in. Solid documentation. Time-stamped. Verifiable. You did good work here, Colin. I'm a quality control consultant, I said with a bitter laugh. Finding problems is what I do. Never thought I'd be applying it to my marriage. He set my phone down on a coffee table. What's your next move? That was the question, wasn't it? I'd been so focused on gathering evidence, on catching her in the lie, that I hadn't planned beyond this moment. The shock, the confrontation, the leaving. But what came after? I need to know everything, I said quietly. Not just the when and where. I need to know who else knew. How deep this goes. Whether she was planning to leave me or just having her fun while keeping the safety net of our marriage intact. Lewis leaned back in his recliner. You thinking about hiring a PI? Maybe. But I've got something better first. I pulled up my contacts and found Monica Pierce's number. Rachel's HR manager. Woman named Monica. We met at the company Christmas party 2 years ago. She seemed decent. Honest. You think she'll talk to you? I think if there's workplace gossip about Rachel and Owen, Monica would know. And if this thing has been going on as long as I suspect, other people have noticed. Lewis nodded approvingly. Smart. Get the full picture before you make any legal moves. You talking to a lawyer yet? Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. appointment with Gerald Hutchins. He handled my business contracts when I started the consulting firm. Good guy. Discreet. Kids know. Lewis asked, and that question hit harder than any of the others. Not yet. Samantha's 16. She's smart. She probably suspects something's wrong. Jordan's 13. Wrapped up in his own world. Bella's 9. She still thinks her mom hung the moon. My voice caught on that last part. How do I tell them their mother destroyed our family for some guy at work? Lewis was quiet for a moment. You don't. Not yet. You get your facts straight, you get your legal ducks in a row, and then you figure out how to protect them from the fallout. Kids don't need to know every ugly detail. He was right. Whatever happened between Rachel and me, our kids didn't deserve to be casualties of her choices. My phone buzzed. 14 missed calls from Rachel. 6 text messages, each one more desperate than the last. Colin, please. We need to talk. I'm so sorry. Don't do this to us. I turned the phone face down and took a long drink of coffee. Lewis noticed. You gonna respond? Eventually, I said. But not tonight. Tonight, she gets to sit with what she's done. Let her feel what it's like when the person you depend on most just disappears without explanation. Lewis raised his coffee mug slightly. To consequences. I clinked my mug against his. To consequences. Monica Pierce agreed to meet me at a coffee shop downtown at 7 a.m. before her workday started. I texted her at 5 in the morning, kept it vague. Need to talk about something work-related involving Rachel. It's urgent. She showed up looking professional in a gray pantsuit, but her eyes showed concern. We grabbed a corner booth, away from other early morning customers. Colin, what's going on? Monica asked, stirring sugar into her coffee. Your text sounded serious. I didn't waste time with small talk. How long have you known about Rachel and Owen Harris? Monica's spoon stopped mid-stir. The color drained from her face. That told me everything I needed to know before she even opened her mouth. What are you talking about? She tried to recover, but it was too late. Monica, please. I'm not here to get anyone in trouble. I just need the truth. I already know they've been having an affair. I have proof. Location data, social media evidence, the whole thing. But what I don't know is how long this has been going on and who else at the company knows about it. She set her coffee down, hands trembling slightly. After a long pause, she spoke quietly. About 8 months. Maybe 9. 8 months. Not 3. Not 6. 8. My stomach twisted. Tell me everything. Monica looked around nervously, then leaned in. It started last spring. They were both assigned to the Midwest Regional Expansion Project. Lots of late meetings, business dinners, travel to potential supplier sites. At first, it seemed professional. But around June, people started noticing things. What things? They'd leave meetings together. Take lunch breaks at the same time. Owen would stop by Rachel's office multiple times a day for things that could have been handled over email. One of the receptionists saw them getting into his car together after work when Rachel's car was still in the parking lot. I felt sick. Did anyone say anything? File a complaint. Monica shook her head. Owen's divorced. No HR policy violation there. Rachel never disclosed her marriage status in her employee file, which technically she didn't have to. And they were careful. Never anything obvious. No PDA in the office. But everyone knew. It was the worst-kept secret in the building. Everyone but me. I said bitterly. Colin, I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you. At the Christmas party last year, I almost pulled you aside. But it wasn't my place. I convinced myself maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was just office gossip. But you weren't wrong. No. She looked down at her coffee. Last month, someone reported them to upper management. Anonymous tip. Said they were using company time and resources for personal activities. There was an internal review. My head snapped up, and they were cleared. Technically, they hadn't violated any policies. But Rachel was warned to maintain professional boundaries. Owen was moved to a different project team. That's it. That's all that happened. Monica's expression turned grim. There's more. 2 weeks ago, I was doing routine expense report audits. Rachel submitted hotel charges from a business trip to Indianapolis in March. But when I cross-referenced with Owen's expenses, he submitted charges for the same hotel, same dates, same floor, rooms right next to each other. Company paid for their affair, I said, voice hollow. I flagged it. Sent it up to the CFO. There's going to be another investigation. Rachel doesn't know yet. It was scheduled to start next Monday. Perfect timing. My wife's professional life was about to implode, right as her personal life was falling apart. Part of me felt vindicated. The other part felt nothing at all. Thank you for telling me the truth, I said. Monica reached across the table and squeezed my hand briefly. For what it's worth, Colin, everyone who knows you thinks Rachel's insane for risking what she had. You're a good man. You deserve better than this. I nodded, unable to form words. We finished our coffees in heavy silence. Gerald Hutchins practiced law in a converted brownstone downtown, the kind of building that whispered old money and discretion. I'd worked with him 5 years ago when I incorporated my consulting business. He was sharp, methodical, and most importantly, he didn't judge. His assistant showed me into the wood-paneled office at 9 a.m. sharp. Gerald stood from behind his mahogany desk, extending a hand. He was 62, silver-haired, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Colin, good to see you, though I wish it were under better circumstances. His handshake was firm. Sit. Tell me everything. I spend the next 20 minutes laying out the evidence. Location data, Instagram screenshots, Monica's testimony about the workplace affair, the company expense reports. Gerald listened without interrupting, taking occasional notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his leather chair. This is about as clear-cut as adultery cases get. You've done excellent documentation work. Most clients come in here with suspicions and feelings. You've come with evidence. What are my options? I asked. Ohio is a no-fault divorce state, which means you don't need to prove adultery to file. However, in terms of asset division and potential alimony, documented infidelity can influence the court's decisions, especially if we can show financial misconduct. Financial misconduct. Gerald flipped through his notes. You mentioned she's been using company resources to facilitate the affair. Hotel rooms charged to corporate accounts, time theft during work hours. If her employment is terminated for cause related to this behavior, that impacts her earning potential, which impacts alimony calculations. I hadn't thought about it that way. So her affair could actually cost her in the settlement. Potentially. Ohio courts consider marital misconduct when determining spousal support. If we can demonstrate that her choices directly led to financial instability, job loss, or other consequences, the court may reduce or eliminate alimony obligations. He paused. What about assets? Home ownership, retirement accounts, savings. House is jointly owned. Bought it 12 years ago. Still have about $90,000 on the mortgage. I've got a 401k worth around $240,000. She's got one worth maybe $60,000. Joint savings account has about $15,000 in it. Gerald made more notes. Children. 3. Samantha's 16, Jordan's 13, Bella's 9. You want to file for primary custody. Given the circumstances, the affair, the workplace misconduct investigation, you've got a strong case. Courts prioritize stability and moral fitness when making custody determinations. The thought of going to war over my own children made my chest tight. But I couldn't let Rachel's choices cost me my relationship with them. There's something else you should know, Gerald said, setting down his pen. I did some preliminary research this morning after you called. Your wife's father passed away 4 years ago, correct? Yes. Heart attack. What? Did Rachel ever mention a trust? My blood went cold. No. What trust? Gerald turned his computer monitor toward me, showing a legal document. Public records show that Howard Pierce, Rachel's father, established a marital trust for his daughter in his will. The trust contains assets valued at approximately $1.8 million. Real estate holdings, investment accounts, life insurance proceeds. $1.8 million. Rachel had never said a word. According to the terms, Gerald continued, Rachel can only access the trust if she remains continuously married until age 45. She's 42 now. If you divorce before she turns 45, the trust dissolves, and the assets go to her father's designated alternate beneficiaries, his church and a local charity. I stared at the document, pieces clicking into place. That's why she panicked when I sent that text. That's why she's been calling nonstop. It's not about me or the kids. It's about the money. Possibly. The trust was structured specifically to incentivize marital stability. Her father apparently had strong views about divorce. I felt sick. Our entire marriage, the last 3 years at least, had been about Rachel waiting for that payout. And she was willing to risk it all for Owen Harris. Can she contest the trust terms? I asked. She can try, but these types of incentive trusts are generally upheld by Ohio courts, especially when they're clearly drafted, as this one was. If you file for divorce now, she loses everything. I met Gerald's eyes. Then we file now. Today. I want papers drawn up by end of business. Gerald nodded slowly. Consider carefully, Colin. Once we file, there's no going back. This becomes a public record. Your children will eventually know the details. Your professional reputation may be affected. My wife has been cheating on me for 8 months with a coworker, using company resources, lying to our children, and apparently hiding a nearly $2 million trust fund from me. I'm done considering anything except protecting myself and my kids. Gerald picked up his phone. Then let's get started. I was still at Gerald's office, reviewing preliminary divorce documents, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Just an image file, no message. I almost deleted it as spam, but something made me open it. The photo stopped my heart. It was taken in a hotel room mirror. Rachel was in the frame, wearing a black blouse. I'd seen her leave the house 2 weeks ago. The night she said she had a late meeting with a supplier. She was smiling at the camera, relaxed, happy, and behind her, partially visible, was Owen. His hand was on her waist. His face was partially cut off, but I could see his beard, his watch, the same watch he'd worn in the company photo Monica had shown me. The timestamp on the image was burned into the corner. 9:47 p.m., 2 weeks ago. A Thursday. What is it? Gerald asked. Noticing my expression, I handed him the phone. He studied the image, then checked the sender information. Unknown number. Could be from a burner phone or internet texting service. Who would send me this? My voice sounded distant in my own ears. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the same number. Thought you deserved to see who she really is. There are more. She's been taking photos with him for months. Doesn't think anyone knows. But I know. I've seen everything. A friend. Gerald and I exchanged looks. Could be someone from her office, he suggested. Someone who disapproves of the affair and wants to help your case. A third message arrived. This time it was a screenshot of text messages. Rachel's name at the top. Messages to Owen from 3 days ago. Can't wait to see you Thursday. Colin's taking Bella to soccer practice, so I have extra time. Thinking about you constantly. This is getting harder to hide. 2 more years, and the trust is mine. Then we can do whatever we want. The room spun. She'd been planning this. Not just the affair, but the end game. Stay married until 40, collect the trust money, then leave me for Owen. I was just a placeholder, a check mark on her to-do list until she could cash out. Colin. Gerald's voice cut through the haze. You all right? She was going to leave me anyway, I said quietly. After she got the money. She was just using me as a placeholder until the trust vested. Gerald read the messages, his expression hardening. This changes things. This shows premeditation, financial motivation, calculated deception. A court would view this very unfavorably. Another message. I have about 40 more screenshots and 12 photos. Wanted to send them all, or just the really bad ones. I typed back. Who is this? The response came immediately. Someone who's tired of watching people cheat and lie. Someone who thinks you deserve better. That's all you need to know. Do you want the rest or not? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to throw the phone across the room and never look at another piece of evidence. But the other part, the part that had been methodically building a case for weeks, knew this was gold. Send everything, I typed. Over the next 5 minutes, my phone exploded with images and screenshots. Rachel and Owen at restaurants. In his car. Outside the hotel. Text messages spanning months, increasingly intimate, increasingly explicit without crossing into anything I couldn't show a judge. Plans to be together. Complaints about me. References to when we can finally be together. The last message was different. She's planning to take the kids. Saw an email draft to a lawyer asking about custody strategies. She's going to blindside you and claim you're an absent workaholic father. Just thought you should know. Good luck. Then the number went dark. No more messages. Gerald had been reading over my shoulder. Well, he said carefully, that certainly expedites our timeline. We need to file immediately. Today. Before she has a chance to execute whatever plan she's been working on. Can we use these? From an anonymous source. The photos are admissible. They're evidence of adultery. The text message screenshots are trickier, but they corroborate the pattern of behavior you've already documented. Combined with Monica's testimony and the company investigation, this paints a very clear picture of systematic deception and financial manipulation. I'll look at the last photo again. Rachel's smile. So genuine, so happy. With him. A smile I hadn't seen directed at me in over a year. File the papers, I said. I want her served by tomorrow morning. Gerald nodded. Consider it done. And Colin, whoever sent you these messages did you a favor. They just handed you every piece of ammunition you need to win this case decisively. I stared at my phone, at the evidence of my wife's betrayal displayed in high definition. Yeah, I said quietly. Some favor. 3 days after filing for divorce, I received a package at Lewis's apartment. No return address, just a plain brown envelope with my name typed on a label. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a USB drive. The paper read, "Test your youngest. You deserve to know the truth. A friend." My hand shook as I held it. Lewis looked over my shoulder. What does that mean? I don't know, but a cold dread was settling in my stomach. Test your youngest. Bella, 9 years old. Brown hair, green eyes. My little girl who still asked me to read her bedtime stories. Lewis took the paper from me. You think? I don't know what to think. I plugged the USB drive into my laptop. One folder. Inside were dozens of photos spanning years. Rachel and Owen at a company retreat. The date stamp, 10 years ago, before Bella was born. More photos. Rachel pregnant, 9 years ago. Owen's hand on her shoulder at a company picnic. Her smiling up at him. Another photo from a work dinner. Rachel and Owen sitting close, her hand on his arm. Oh God, I whispered. Lewis leaned closer. Colin, these could mean anything. They work together. It doesn't necessarily. Look at the dates. My voice was hollow. 10 years ago. The affair didn't start 8 months ago. It's been going on for a decade. The room spun. If the affair started 10 years ago, and Bella was born 9 years ago, then you need to do a DNA test, Lewis said quietly. You need to know for certain. I can't. If it's true, if Bella isn't mine. I couldn't finish the sentence. The thought of looking at my daughter and seeing someone else's child was unbearable. And if you don't test, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering, Lewis countered. Which is worse? He was right. I ordered a paternity test kit online, paid extra for expedited shipping. It arrived the next morning. Swab from me, swab from Bella. I waited until Rachel took Samantha to volleyball practice and Jordan to his friend's house. Bella was watching cartoons in the living room. Hey, sweet girl, I said, sitting beside her. Can Daddy do something real quick? It's for a doctor thing. Am I sick? Bella looked up at me with those green eyes. Owen had green eyes. No, baby. Just a quick test. Open up. I swabbed the inside of her cheek, as gently as possible. 30 seconds, and it was done. Can I have ice cream now? She asked, already forgetting about it. Sure, sweetheart. Whatever you want. I mailed the samples that afternoon. Results would take 5 to 7 business days. The longest week of my life began. During that week, I barely slept. Every time I looked at Bella, I searched her face for traces of me. My nose. Maybe. My smile. I wasn't sure anymore. Did she have Owen's jawline? His expressions? Rachel tried calling every day. I didn't answer. The divorce papers had been served. She knew what was coming. But she didn't know about the DNA test. Not yet. On day 6, the email arrived. Your paternity test results are ready. I sat in Lewis's home office, staring at the screen. My finger hovered over the link. Once I clicked it, there was no going back. No more uncertainty. Just truth, whatever it was. Lewis stood in the doorway. You want me here, or you want privacy? Stay, I said. I need someone to make sure I don't put my fist through the wall. I clicked the link. The page loaded. Clinical language, probability percentages, genetic markers. I scrolled down to the conclusion. Probability of paternity, 0%. Colin Wallace is excluded as the biological father of the tested child. The words blurred. I read them again. And again. Bella wasn't mine. 9 years of birthdays, scraped knees, Bedtime stories, first days of school, dance recitals. 9 years of being her father. And she wasn't mine. I closed the laptop very carefully, very deliberately. Then I stood up, walked to Lewis's backyard, and screamed until my throat was raw. Lewis didn't try to stop me. He just stood nearby, giving me space to fall apart. When I finally went back inside, my voice was gone, but my mind was clear. I'm taking everything from her, I said hoarsely. The house, the custody, the trust fund, everything. She doesn't get to destroy my life and walk away with anything. Lewis nodded. What about Bella? That question broke me all over again. She's still my daughter. Biology doesn't change that. But Rachel needs to face what she's done, what she's hidden from me for 9 years. I forwarded the DNA results to Gerald. His response came within an hour. This changes everything. We need to meet tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. The call came from Monica Pierce on a Monday morning. Her voice was tight, professional. Colin, I thought you should know. The internal investigation concluded Friday. Results are being presented to the executive board this afternoon. And I was at Lewis's kitchen table, nursing coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Rachel and Owen are both being terminated, effective immediately after the board meeting. Security will escort them out. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication. Just emptiness. There's more, Monica continued. The company is considering legal action to recover the misappropriated funds. Over $40,000 in fraudulent expense claims between the two of them. They could face criminal charges. Criminal charges. My wife might go to jail. The mother of my children. Well, 2 of them anyway. When will this happen? I asked. Board meeting starts at 2 p.m. By 3 p.m., they'll both be gone. I thanked Monica and ended the call. Then I did something I hadn't planned on. I drove to Rachel's office building and parked across the street. I needed to see it happen. At 2:47 p.m., the lobby doors opened. 2 security guards walked out flanking Rachel. She was carrying a cardboard box, her face red and blotchy from crying. Behind her came Owen, also with a box, looking angry rather than upset. They walked to the parking lot separately. Rachel got in her car and just sat there, gripping the steering wheel. Owen threw his box in his trunk and peeled out of the lot like he was being chased. Rachel's car didn't move for 15 minutes. Then her phone rang. I could see her through the windshield, answering it, then her face crumbling. She dropped the phone and put her head on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed. A text from Gerald. HR just contacted me. Your wife was terminated for cause from her employment. This significantly impacts her earning capacity and strengthens our position on alimony and custody. Another text. This one from an unknown number. She's getting what she deserves. But there's still more you don't know. Check your wife's mother's criminal record from 1987. Linda Pierce. Might explain where Rachel learned her behavior. A friend. The anonymous messenger again. I was starting to wonder who this person was and why they were helping me. But right now, I didn't care. I looked up Linda Pierce's record on a public database. What I found made my blood run cold. Rachel's mother, the woman who'd always seemed so prim and proper, so religious and judgmental, had been arrested 38 years ago for prostitution. Not just once. Multiple arrests over a 2-year period in New York City. High-end escort service. The charges were eventually dropped after unnamed parties paid settlements. Rachel's father had been a wealthy businessman. He'd bought Linda's way out of trouble, cleaned up her record, married her to save face. The perfect family image was built on lies and covered-up scandals. Rachel had grown up watching her mother manipulate her father, watching lies become truth if you had enough money and knew how to play the game. No wonder she thought she could do the same. I saved the records and sent them to Gerald. More evidence of family patterns of deception, I wrote. Then I started my car and drove away, leaving Rachel alone in that parking lot with the ruins of the life she'd built on betrayals. That evening, Gerald called. The board investigation turned up something else. Rachel forged her signature on several corporate documents, insurance forms, emergency contact updates. She listed Owen as her spouse on a life insurance beneficiary form filed 6 months ago. She was planning to leave me, I said. Not a question, a statement. More than that. If something had happened to her, Owen would have collected a $300,000 life insurance payout, a policy paid for by her employer. She basically named him her next of kin while still legally married to you. The betrayal kept getting deeper, layers upon layers of lies and deceit. Gerald, I want her to have nothing when this is done. She took 9 years of my life believing Bella was mine. She planned to steal from me, to replace me. I want justice. You'll get it, Gerald said. Tomorrow we're filing an emergency motion for full custody based on the paternity results, the termination from employment, the documented affair, and the fraudulent insurance designation. By the end of the week, she won't have access to the house or the children without supervised visitation. Do it. I hung up and looked at the DNA results one more time. Bella's smiling face in my wallet photo. She was still my daughter, no matter what the test said. But Rachel was about to learn that betrayal had consequences she never saw coming. I was packing up the last of my things from the house when Samantha walked into the bedroom. 16 years old, her mother's eyes, but thankfully my common sense. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Dad, we need to talk," she said quietly. I set down the box I was holding. "What's up, sweetie?" She closed the door behind her. "I know about the DNA test. I know Bella isn't yours." My heart stopped. "How did you?" "I saw the envelope. When you first got it. I was curious, so I looked up what those tests were for." She sat on the edge of the bed. "And I know about Mom and Owen. I've known for months." I sat down beside her. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I was scared. I didn't want to be the one who destroyed our family. But then you found out anyway, and I was relieved because I didn't have to carry that secret anymore." Tears filled her eyes. "Dad, there's something else. Something I should have told you a long time ago." "What is it?" Samantha took a shaky breath. "Uncle Danny, your brother. The car accident 15 years ago. My blood went cold. Danny had died when he was 28, hit by a drunk driver who fled the scene. They never found who did it." "What about Danny?" "Mom was driving that night," Samantha whispered. "I heard her and Grandma Linda talking about it when I was little. They didn't know I was listening. Mom was drunk. She hit someone with her car, and Grandpa Pierce made it go away because he was a retired police captain. They covered up." The room tilted. "What?" "She killed Uncle Danny, Dad. And she never told you. She let you think it was some random drunk driver all these years." I couldn't breathe. My brother. My little brother who I protected growing up, who'd call me his hero. Rachel had killed him and let me mourn for 15 years without ever telling me the truth. "Are you sure?" I managed to ask. Samantha nodded, crying now. "I'm sure. I heard them talking about it twice. The second time was 3 years ago when Grandma Linda got drunk at Thanksgiving. She said something about that night with the Wallace boy and how they'd kept the secret for so long." I stood up, paced the room. Everything made sense now. Why Rachel's father had insisted on paying for our wedding. Why Linda always seemed nervous around me. Why Rachel never wanted to talk about Danny. Always changed the subject when I mentioned him. "Does your mother know that you know?" I asked. "I don't think so. I never said anything. I was too scared." I pulled Samantha into a hug. "Thank you for telling me. I know that couldn't have been easy." "What are you going to do?" she asked, voice muffled against my shoulder. "I'm going to make sure your mother faces every consequence she deserves," I said quietly. "And Samantha, no matter what happens, I want you to know something. You're my daughter. Biology doesn't matter. You and Jordan, you're mine. Always." She hugged me tighter. "What about Bella?" "Bella too. She's my little girl. Nothing changes that. Even though she's Owen's. Even though." The courthouse steps were cold in early autumn. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks ago, but today was the criminal sentencing hearing. Rachel stood with her public defender, looking 20 years older than she had a year ago. The judge had been thorough. Vehicular manslaughter charges for Danny's death, based on evidence Lewis and I had uncovered with Samantha's testimony. Fraud charges for the insurance beneficiary scheme. The company had pressed charges for the expense report theft. "Rachel Wallace Pierce, you are hereby sentenced to 6 years in state prison," the judge announced, "with possibility of parole after 4 years, contingent on restitution payments and completion of rehabilitation programs." Rachel's knees buckled. Her lawyer caught her. She looked back at me in the gallery, her eyes pleading. I looked away. Owen had taken a plea deal, got 3 years probation and community service for the fraud. He'd fled town immediately after, moved to Arizona. I heard through Monica that he was engaged to someone new already. Some men never change. The trust fund had dissolved the day our divorce finalized. $1.8 million split between her father's church and a local charity, just like the will specified. Rachel got nothing. I got the house, primary custody of all 3 kids, and enough assets to start over comfortably. Samantha was thriving in therapy, dealing with the guilt of keeping secrets. Jordan was adjusting, spending more time with me learning how to work with his hands. And Bella, sweet Bella, still called me daddy and had no idea the DNA test had ever happened. Rachel would get supervised visits once she was released, assuming she earned that right. But for now, my kids were safe, stable, and learning that actions had consequences. Lewis stood beside me as we left the courthouse. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "I think I finally am." That evening, I got one last email from my anonymous helper. "Justice served. Your brother will be proud. Take care of those kids. They need you." A friend who's been watching over your family. I never found out who sent those messages, those photos, that evidence. But whoever they were, they'd helped me see the truth when I needed it most. 10 months after that terrible Tuesday night when everything fell apart, I stood in my kitchen making breakfast for 3 kids who knew their father would always protect them. The house smelled like pancakes and fresh coffee. Sunlight streamed through windows. I cleaned myself. Jordan walked in, grabbed a plate. "Dad, can we go to the hardware store later? I want to build that bookshelf we talked about." "Absolutely, buddy." Bella came running and wearing her school uniform. "Daddy, can you braid my hair?" "Come here, sweet girl." As I braided Bella's hair, I thought about everything I'd lost and everything I'd gained. A wife who betrayed me in every way possible, but 3 kids who loved me unconditionally. A brother whose death finally had justice, and a future that was entirely mine to build. Rachel had tried to destroy me. Instead, she'd freed me, and that was the greatest gift she never meant to give.